I got the invitation to go on this Armed Lutheran radio show, though. You know this guy? Have you seen this? There's two things that I would like to say that make me feel safe. Number one, the fact that there is a radio show called the Armed Lutheran Podcast somewhere in the world. That makes me feel safe.
Bringing you law, gospel, and guns. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Armed Lutheran Radio, a show about guns, hunting, competitive shooting, the natural right of self-defense, and what God's Word says about the issues surrounding gun rights and gun ownership. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran. This is episode number 480. I lost track. I think we're up to 486 now. I'm getting old. Can't remember. It's 486. Welcome. Glad to have you here. It's good to be with you, and thank you all for making Armed Lutheran Radio a part of your week this week. Thank you to all the members of the Reformation Gun Club who make this show possible. The men and women who, through their monthly and yearly contributions, help keep the lights on. Really do appreciate everyone who contributes to the effort. If you would like to see the show continue, if you would like to get access to, I've got some stuff in the works for a new Reformation Gun Club content site. Working on that. That's coming in the near future. But get invitations to our monthly online hangouts. Come hang out with some awesome people and talk about issues of the day and whatever comes to mind, as we did a couple of weeks ago. Visit reformationgunclub.com or visit the website armedlutheran.us and check out the there's a button on the page, Contribute to the Mission. There's a big banner that says Reformation Gun Club. Click the blue Contribute to the Mission button. That will take you to Give, Send, Go, the Christian crowdfunding project that helps us handle all of our contributions. Every penny is appreciated. If you're giving $1 a month, $1 a year, $100 a year, whatever, we appreciate every penny, and we thank you so much for your support. Okay, what are we talking about today? We're talking about something that came up as a result, again, of something that happened in our neighborhood. Wasn't terrible, just something that made me think about this subject. And I thought I would discuss it with you as we're talking about safety and security in your home and your neighborhood, following up on the episode that I posted a couple of weeks ago, episode 483. Lock your dang doors. Well, this one is similar, but it touches on something that we haven't talked about in a while, something that our good friend Aaron Israel discussed a bit in one of his segments many moons ago when he was a member of the cast, and it's the idea of authority bias, or the uniform effect. So basically, here's what prompted this discussion. My wife was driving my daughter to a volleyball clinic one morning, and on the way out of the neighborhood, they noticed a van with a gentleman sitting in the front seat, pulled off to the side, and he was staring, watching a couple of kids riding their bikes. One of them a teenager, the other probably looked like an elementary school kid. And he was just engrossed in watching the kids. I'll also say that he didn't look like he was related to either of the kids, though I can't prove that. But I will say that in a state where it's not uncommon for Amber Alerts to be sent out and to see that a child has been abducted by an estranged parent, or some other nefarious person. It's not, this is the kind of thing that would worry you to see a guy who's sitting in your neighborhood watching kids play, watching so intently that he doesn't notice that you're watching him. When he does, he then pulls away from the curb, but he pulls over into the neighborhood pool parking lot and gets out and continues to watch the kids. So that was more than a little creepy. I later kind of circled the neighborhood looking for this van, and here's why. And this is where the authority bias, the uniform effect comes in. We live in a neighborhood that is not fully built out. There are still 4 or 5 streets that have at least one house that is under construction in various phases of construction. And so it's not uncommon. It's an everyday thing to have construction workers, home builders, and the like, painters, in and out of the neighborhood, working on these unfinished houses. And so it is not an uncommon sight to see an unmarked van, pickup trucks, the vehicles of people who don't actually live in the neighborhood, in and out of the neighborhood frequently. So a van, like this guy was driving, would not set off any kinds of alarms in the minds of most of the people who live in our neighborhood. And I would wager that our neighborhood is not unusual in this. But in a neighborhood like this, where there's lots of construction going on, you wouldn't probably bat an eye seeing a van in your neighborhood. Right? Not uncommon. So this is where this concept of authority bias or the uniform effect comes in, where you have this tendency to assume that when someone wears the correct clothing, like a construction vest or a security uniform or a lab coat, or they're wearing a hard hat, or they're carrying a clipboard, or they're driving a van in a neighborhood where, or in an area where that vehicle or that outfit looks like it should be there, we have this tendency to assume that that's okay, that is normal, and that there's nothing to worry about. I want to suggest that if you live in or work in one of these places where you have people in these sort of uniforms, if you want to call them that, driving certain types of vehicles, wearing certain types of clothing, and they're coming in and out on a regular basis, don't let your guard down, because that doesn't mean that everyone who is there should be there. It would be very easy for, let's just take the worst case scenario. It would be very easy for a child predator driving a van to blend in many of the neighborhoods in the high growth areas of the country, or moderate growth. I think 5 of the top 6 fastest growing cities in the country are here in North Texas, or in Texas. Most of them are North Texas. I think it's where I live right now, and 2 other cities that are close by. And then I think there's 2 others here in Texas, but 3 of the top 5 fastest growing cities in the country are right here in my backyard, essentially. So having construction workers, having people in the uniform is not uncommon, and it would be very, very easy in a neighborhood where there is construction. It would be a perfect, well, I wouldn't say perfect. It would be almost perfect. I mean, think about it this way. It would be an almost perfect hunting ground for a child predator. If you have a neighborhood in the outskirts of a major metropolitan area, like we are outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, where there is this sense of safety and security that hasn't yet been destroyed by all the growth. You have lots of new people moving in. You have lots of construction going on. You have now, because school is out, lots of kids out playing during the day. And lots of the people, now that we're past the COVID nonsense, lots of people have gone back to work. So you have lots of kids out, and you don't have lots of people at home during the day. Not everybody, obviously, is like me and has the opportunity to work from home. So you've got kids out playing. You have construction workers in the neighborhood. Be the perfect opportunity for a predator to rock up in a van and prowl the neighborhood looking for kids. When this, for example, when we saw this incident that I was just describing about the guy in the van, after we dropped our daughter off at the clinic, when we came back, tooled through the neighborhood looking for a van and a driver matching the description of the guy we had seen earlier. And there were lots of vans, lots of trucks, lots of construction workers. And at the same time, there were lots of kids. There were moms out walking with their strollers. There were moms out walking with their dogs. And there were kids riding bikes, riding scooters by themselves. It would not be hard for a predator to make this a hunting ground by simply blending in with the construction workers that are routinely in and out of a neighborhood like this. So overcoming authority bias is something that you need to, or your authority bias needs to be something that you're very cognizant of. You need to be conscious of that bias, because just because somebody looks like they should be here doesn't mean that they should. Now, I'm not trying to disparage construction workers. I'm not trying to suggest that you should be worried about people who work on the homes or build the homes in our neighborhoods. What I'm suggesting is that there are nefarious people who could very easily take advantage of that authority bias that everybody has and simply blend in to places where they could get access to children, to homes, to young women. It would not be a difficult thing. And it would be easy for them to blend in, do a little hunting, and then simply slip away. Now, my first thought when we got back was, because it was a van, I wonder if that person was here doing construction work. So that's what I tooled around the neighborhood looking for. Did not find it. So whoever it was had already gone by the time we got back. And again, that's not to suggest that construction workers are necessarily bad people. What I'm saying is that, like in all populations, whether it's police, priests, teachers, construction workers, doctors, nurses. There are bad people. And if there's a bad person who's working construction, and let's face it, I would suggest that lawn care and construction is probably not a highly, strictly, stringently vetted occupation. But it would not surprise me if there were unsavory people working in that profession, just like in any profession, who might come to a situation like this and see an opportunity. Or someone who is up to no good, who recognizes that because of the uniform effect, they can slip in and out of these kinds of areas, these kinds of neighborhoods, and basically garner no attention, attract no attention whatsoever, because they look like they belong there. So this is kind of a short episode. There's not a whole lot more I wanted to go into about this. It's something that came to mind. It reminded me of a segment that Aaron Israel had done many moons ago, and I wanted to sort of revisit the concept. Don't always assume that someone who looks like they should be there based on either the vehicle they're driving or the clothing that they're wearing or the equipment that they're carrying, like clipboard or a notepad or a hard hat or whatever, a construction vest, driving around in a van in a neighborhood that is experiencing lots of construction. Don't let those things cause you to drop your guard. I'm not saying be hyper vigilant and worry about every van that comes into your neighborhood, or, be over the top vigilant about things. But you do need to have a sense of awareness that there are people out there who will take advantage of this bias. Whether they know it or not, they can take advantage of this bias and prey on innocent people where you wouldn't expect, in what you might consider a safe neighborhood like the one I live in. So, yeah, you see a van or you see a guy in a construction outfit, 99% chance probably that person is where they're supposed to be. But there's still that non-0% chance that person is up to no good. So always look for other cues to clue you in as to whether or not what you're seeing or what you're thinking is authority bias, or and this is really truly not someone who should be here, or if you're just overthinking it. But I'd rather overthink it than be oblivious. So how do you walk that line? How do you decide whether or not, how do you sort of filter out the authority bias in your own situations? I don't know what the answer to that is. Everyone has to decide for themselves. But what I simply would say is, okay, yes, let's take this situation, for example. Guy in the neighborhood with a van, non-white. I'll just say that. I'll leave it at that. Well, I'll go a step further. Hispanic guy in a van in a neighborhood where there's lots of construction. Not something that's uncommon. Very common, everyday occurrence. In fact, neighbors look like that, drive like that, or drive that kind of vehicle. Not at all uncommon. So that doesn't mean necessarily that they're up to no good. It also doesn't mean necessarily that the person you see is safe. So you have to look for other context clues to determine in your own mind whether or not this person should actually be here. On its face, Hispanic man in a panel van, completely normal for this neighborhood, where there is construction going on 24/7, seemingly. Well, at least 7 days a week. I don't think it's 24/7. But still, if you drive through this neighborhood, the part of this neighborhood that's partly under construction as we speak, you will find a half dozen vans pulled over in front of houses that are in various states of construction. Totally normal. Nothing to see here. Except when you see a van in this kind of neighborhood, completely natural, completely normal, nothing to worry about. But are there other context clues that can give you a better idea of what this person is doing? Is this person wearing construction clothing, like a construction vest or a hard hat? Is this person actually unloading tools or loading tools into the van or working on something, carrying things into one of these homes? Perfectly normal? Probably good. Is this guy parked on the side of one of your streets, staring holes through a couple of teenage kids on their bikes and watching them like a hawk? That I would call abnormal. That's the context clue that should overcome your authority bias. So look for other clues that might lead you to a proper conclusion, a correct conclusion about who this person is. What are they doing? Not just what are they wearing or what are they driving. So that's my spiel for this week. A short one, but a goodie, I hope. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you something to think about. I'm not saying that you should suddenly start to worry about every panel van that drives through your neighborhood or every construction worker who's on a lot somewhere in your neighborhood. I'm not trying to create panic or to make you hyper freaked out about every person you see. What I'm saying is there is this thing called authority bias. It's easy to let your guard down just based on the appearance of authority, right? And to move along and ignore other clues that might say, not necessarily a good person, not necessarily in the correct place. So, just a little something to think about as you consider all the various ways that you try to protect your home, your family, your kids, your neighborhood in these crazy times. All right, if you have any thoughts or any comments, any questions, any concerns or complaints, visit our website. We have a new place to send us comments or questions. You can send us a message, look for feedback, and there's a spot on the website where you can send us a message. You can comment on this episode in our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio, or on our YouTube channel on where this is posted. Love to hear from you. Love to get your thoughts. Share your concerns or your ideas about this topic. How do you overcome your own authority bias? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until we get together again next week for episode 487, keep shooting, keep praying. We'll talk to you next time.
For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback or a review on iTunes and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio.